Good evening, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is deployment in the Kubernetes and how to work with the deployment. What are the deployment strategies available? What is recreate, rolling update, and how to create the manifest YML in order to create the application deployment by using deployment kind. And we also seen how to scale up the deployment, scale down the deployments manually. And we also discussed about what is auto scaling in the Kubernetes and how can we work with horizontal pod auto scaling by using HPA concept. And we are able to set up the HPA, and we have seen the pods increasing and pods decreasing automatically based on the load. For the HPA, metrics are required. The metrics will be given by metrics API. That metrics server also we have configured in our Kubernetes cluster, and we deployed our sample application, and we exposed that application as a cluster IP. Then we created a HPA for that. HPA will collect the metrics from the metrics server. If the given threshold limit is crossed, then pods will be increased. If the given threshold limit is not crossed, the pods count will be decreased. Okay. So for increasing the load, we have used a load generator concept, and we have seen practically in the Kubernetes, auto scaling is happening for the pods by using HPA. Good. Next one, guys. One of the most challenging part in the Kubernetes is manifest YMLs, because in the Kubernetes, everything we are doing by using YML files. So how to write these YML files in the real time, how people are going to configure these YMLs. So you should remember the template of the manifest YML that we are going to create. So as discussed already, in the YML, we will be having four sections mainly. One is API version, second one is kind, third one is metadata, and the fourth one is spec will be available. Okay. So in these four sections, API version, what is the resource? For every resource, one API version is available, something like apps/v1. And kind, when we are going to specify resource name, what you want to create by using this YML. Do you want to create pods by using this YML directly? But in the real time, we don't create the pods directly. As discussed, pods will be created by using Kubernetes resource only. So what resource that you want to create to manage your pods? Do you want to go with replica set? Do you want to go with the deployment, daemon set, stateful set, or HPA? Or do you want to create a resource? Basically, that resource type, resource name, we are going to specify by using kind. Then next one, metadata. In the metadata, we can specify the name, and we are going to specify the namespace. Okay. So what name that you want to give for that resource, and under which namespace you want to create that resource, we are going to specify by using this metadata. Coming to the spec, so here the most important part is specification. If you are going to create pod directly, then under specification you can write the containers directly. But we don't create the pod directly, so under the specification we have to specify the resource templates. Pod template will be available. Okay, what kind of deployment you want to do? Okay, and what kind of images that you want to use? What is your pod template? What is container that you want to write in the pod? All that information will go under specification part. But remembering this YML manifest file, we can't butify this one. Okay, so because lot of varieties of resources available in the Kubernetes, so remembering all this YML configuration is little difficult part. So that's why you can use internet and you can research on the YML manifest files that you want to write. So the very first thing, let us go to official Kubernetes website, guys. Let us go for kubernetes.io website, where you can verify. Okay, this is kubernetes.io. The official Kubernetes website is available. You can search the Kubernetes documentation here to understand the Kubernetes, set up the Kubernetes cluster, view the Kubernetes concepts. Some tutorials are available on the Kubernetes concepts, configuring a Java microservice, introduction to Kubernetes, Minikube is available, configuration, config map is available in the Kubernetes. Okay, so the documentation is available. So here you can specify for manifest. pods in the Kubernetes. How do we create pods in the Kubernetes? What is a pod? So the shared context of Linux namespaces and all things are available. So in order to create the pod, they have given the manifest YML, simple pod YML. So simple pod YML is available here, API version, kind, metadata, spec. In the spec, directly we are giving the container. So name of the container, image that you want to use to create the container, and what is the container port. So to create the pod, this is the YML file, and this is the YML that you want to execute by using kubectl command. Okay, so the manifest YML files are available here in order to create the pods. Okay, but writing these pods manually, configuration manually is very difficult. So that's why today people are using AI tools. For example, if you go with the ChatGPT, so I logged in into my ChatGPT account. So in this account, you can search for whatever you want. For example, you can type what is Kubernetes. I hope all of you have account in the ChatGPT, a beautiful AI platform where you can get the content for your works, daily works, that what you want. So here, when we ask some question, what is Kubernetes? It is giving the answer. Kubernetes, often abbreviated as K8S, an open source platform to automate deployment, scaling, and containerized applications. Some of the key points about the Kubernetes: container orchestration. Orchestration, nothing but managing the workloads, right? Portability is available, scalability is available. Some okay, so you can get the information that you want from ChatGPT. And the next thing, suppose I want to get one manifest YML. I want to get one manifest YML to create the pod. Okay, so Kubernetes pod manifest YML. You just type that. Then the ChatGPT will give you the manifest YML that is required in order to create the pods. I think there is some network issue. We're not able to connect. Let me reload.
Is it your paid ChatGPT, sir?
No, sir, it's free only. I have not taken the license. License, I think $20 per month. More advanced features will be available when you go for paid version of ChatGPT. I'm using free version of ChatGPT.
Okay, it looks something different.
No. Yeah. It is showing me to
They,
upgrade.
they make the ChatGPT 4 also free, so that's why it is looking different.
Yeah, free. I'm under free plan currently. If you want, you can upgrade for this. Upgrade $20 per month. Access to ChatGPT 4. Currently, we are using ChatGPT 3.5.
No, it's ChatGPT 4.0, sir.
Limited access to 4.0. Okay. I think somewhat it got stuck, man. Guys, can you check? Is it loading for you? I'm not able to access it here.
Yeah, sometimes it happens, sir. This one it happens, but it takes time and it will load.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sometimes it happens. Even I face this issue, sir, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe due to heavy workload.
But
yes.
you try from Google, that link. Just
Try logging out, sir, and try stay logged out and try ChatGPT.
No, sir. This issue exists almost for 1 hour, sir. Then after some time it gets resolved, sir.
Yeah, I got it.
This was I expecting, the screen and all. Now it is.
Kubernetes pod manifest YML. I'm just asking. Yeah. Now, guys, you can check it.
It's working at my end.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, even it's working here. So I'm asking a question. Kubernetes pod manifest YML. So it is giving the YML file that I need to write in order to create the pods. Okay. And they are giving the explanation also. What is the API version and what is the purpose of kind? What is the metadata? What is the specification that you want to mention for the pod creation? So in the specification, list of containers running in the pod. So they already mentioned that inside the specification, containers available. What is the meaning of containers? List of containers you can specify. As we have seen in the Kubernetes architecture diagram, inside one pod, multiple containers can be available. So list of containers you can specify. When you want to write list of containers, so we are giving this hyphen. Hyphen represents list of elements. What is the image that you want to use and what are the ports that you want to use. So like this, you don't need to butify this guys. So just you can get it from this Kubernetes pod manifest YML. So they are giving the content to create the pod by using YML. But can you tell me what is the problem if I create the pod like this by using this manifest YML? If I create the pod, then what is the problem? Guys, can anyone tell me what is the problem if I create the pods like this?
No, we have to change the like some changes we have to do directly. We can't use this.
So can I create the pod using this approach or not? Can we create the pods using this
No,
approach?
sir, it is not recommended, sir.
Image is different. It is not auto healing, auto scaling.
Auto scaling and self healing is not there. Replica
auto
side.
healing.
I mean, like we are not using all those map key pair values, sir. So it's like some of them is like a little up and down too, but most of them we are not using it, right?
Self-healing is not happening, sir. If we give the kind as pod, so if we delete the pod, a new pod will not be created, sir. It will just delete the pod. That's it, sir.
Yeah, replica set we have not configured.
Hello, sir. Hello.
I think connection issue.
Yes, there is network.
And all the guys, the key pair values they're giving over here, like
No,
they're giving like generic form.
When you ask a question, we have to be specific. I think we should give the how many instances, auto scaling, and it should have a vertical, horizontal kind of.
But using this YML file directly, we can create a pod. Normally,
We can create a pod, yeah.
Yeah, but we
But
should
when
have
you-
that.
But it's not going to be managed by Kubernetes.
Yeah, when you type in the ChatGPT, your questions should be very specific actually. So
Yeah,
based on your
then
requirement,
later
your
we have to
question
ask.
should be more relevant.
Later we have to ask for 2 replica set or auto scaling again. We have to ask one by one. It gets changed. It gives the changes actually.
Guys, so if you use this YML file to create the pods, right? So we don't have lifecycle management from the Kubernetes. Auto scaling will not be available. And next one, self-healing will not be available. Okay. So that's why this is not recommended approach to create the pods in the cluster. So what is the recommended approach to create the pods in the cluster? By using Kubernetes resources. Okay, fine. Next one, Kubernetes service manifest YML. Kubernetes service manifest YML. So whatever the pod that you are creating, we need to expose those pods by using services, right? So just see what ChatGPT is telling to write the service. Yeah. So you can check here the service it is writing, API version, kind, metadata, spec, selector is available, ports available. But if you observe, service type is available or service type is not available. Guys, do we have service type here? We don't have service.
No, strategy is not available, sir.
Yeah, service type is not available. So what is the meaning of that?
cluster IP.
Yes. Service type it is not mentioned, so it will go as cluster IP. How many types of services we have in the Kubernetes?
3 types, sir.
3 types.
Cluster IP, node port, and load balancer.
Load balancer.
Right. Fine. Next one. If you want to know about the differences between the services also, we can ask the chat. Cluster IP versus node port versus load balance. I think so it is slow, man, networking related issue. Let me check with this. Cluster IP versus node port versus load balance in Kubernetes.
But during the interview, we should know all the syntaxes, no, sir?
Yeah, that's what, sir. So I told you the structure that you should know, template you should know. Each and every tag that we can't remember, but the template. Basically, what are the main tags that we are going to write? Those concepts that we should.
So do you need to remember that installation part?
Sorry, sir. I was not able to
Kubernetes
understand.
setup.
Setup, you don't need to buy hearts. Setup, you don't need to buy hearts.
Yeah. That is what I was.
Yes, guys. So it is saying that in the Kubernetes, there are different types of services to control the network traffic exposed to our pods. Cluster IP. This is the default type of service in the Kubernetes. Guys. It exposes the services on internal IP address that is accessible only within the cluster. As I told you, when you have multiple pods, right, we should not depend on the pod IPs. All the pods will be mapped to one internal IP address when you go for cluster IP. And that cluster IP is accessible only within the cluster, not outside. Okay. So you use cluster IP when you want to expose your service to other applications and services running within the same cluster, but not to the external traffic. External traffic, as I told you. My database pods are running in the cluster. Those database pods not for outside people. Those are the database pods should be accessible to the application which is also running in the same cluster. Basically, my application is running in the cluster, database also running in the cluster. My application should connect with the database pods, but outside people should not connect. In such kind of scenarios, we will go for cluster IP. Okay. When you want to expose them pods by using cluster IP service type, you can specify as a cluster IP. Even if you don't specify this, default service is cluster IP only. And the next one, service type node port is available here. What is the purpose of the node port?
Node port.
This type of service expose the service on the static port on each node in the cluster. Suppose if you want to expose the pods on the particular worker node, then we will go for node port. So node port service is for external traffic. Outside Kubernetes cluster, if you want to allow the people to access your pods, then we are going to use this node port. Typically for development or for small scale deployments. Generally when the people are doing the developments and when you are doing the testing, then we can go for the node port because on that particular worker node pods only we can access by using node port. So in this node port service manifest YML, we did not specify any port number. So if I don't specify any port number, then what will happen, guys?
Below 30,000 or something it will take.
No, from 30,000 to 32,000 something, the value it will take.
32,767, I think.
Yeah, 30,000 to 32,000.
Again, sir got disconnected.
No. If you don't specify any port number, it will be taking some random node port number, right? What is the range of the random
32,767.
Yes, from 30,000 to 32,767 it is going to take. But is it recommended to go with the random number?
No, sir. No.
What is the problem if I go with the random node port number?
Each and every time we create, when we restart it, so the port number will get changed.
Every time when you create a service, every time a new port number will come. That new port number we need to enable in the security group every time it is a button. So it is a time-based process. That's why. Can we fix one node port number for the node port service? Yes,
sir, we can
fix one node port. Next one, load balance. So what is the purpose of load balancer here? Type of service provisions external load balancer in the cloud provider's network and assign unique external IP address to the service. When you are going for large scale deployments, large applications, when you want a high availability, when you want to distribute the load to all the pods running on all the worker nodes, then you can go for load balance. Generally in the real time, for our applications for external traffic access, we are going to use load balance. And you need to remember one point here. When you go for load balancer type, that should be provider managed cluster. Suppose if you have Kubedium or if you have like Minikube, then load balancer type will not work out. So when you are using service type as a load balancer, then definitely your cluster should be managed by the provider. Provider will give you a load balancer from this. Suppose if you are using EKS cluster, then AWS ELB will be available. When you go for GCP cluster, GCP load balancer will be available. They will provide one unique URL to access your application. When you are going for production workloads, that means when you are deploying our application in the live environment for the high availability, we are going to use service type as a load balance. So service manifest is same for all three types. Only the part which is different type we are going to change. What type of service that you want to create for your pods, those service type name you are going to specify. Okay, summary, services within the cluster using cluster IP outside from the particular worker node, load balancer for high availability we are going to use. So based on the requirement, we can choose what type of service that you want to create to expose your pods. Only within the cluster, if you want to allow the access, then cluster IP. If you want to access the pods from the particular worker node for the testing purpose, node port. If you want to expose your pods for outside access with the high availability, then load balancer type is required. Okay. Now, for example, I want to deploy my application by using Kubernetes, but I don't want to create the pods directly. I want to create the pods by using replicas. Okay. What is replica set in Kubernetes? Just ask that ChatGPT.
Higher level abstraction.
You can check it, guys. How do you want to create the pods by using replica set? Okay. So when you are going for the replica set, the specification got changed. When you are going for direct pod, this part will not be available. How many replicas you want, what is the selector, what is the label, the template is not available. Directly we are going to specify pod specification. Okay. So this is replica set YML. When you ask this ChatGPT, what is replica set? It is giving very clear information about what is the replica set and how to write the manifest YML to create the replicas. Okay. High availability, if you want scaling, if you want rolling updates, then you can go for replicas. What is the difference between replica set and a deployment in Kubernetes? We have seen replica set and we have seen deployment also. So you can check.
So what is rollback support here?
Rollback means whatever the deployment that we have created, we can roll it back. We can go back to the previous deployment. So as we discussed, I have deployed my application. We found some issue with the deployment. Then I want to go for the previous deployment. That rollbacks we can do by using this deployment approach. Right. Now see guys, so when we ask about what is the difference between replica set and deployment in the Kubernetes, the primary purpose of the replica set to ensure specified number of pods are running at given time. Suppose if I specify 3 replicas, so always 3 replicas will be available for our application. If any one pod replica got deleted or damaged, Kubernetes will replace that. with the another pod. Okay. Used for basic scaling and ensuring availability of the pods without additional deployment features like rolling updates. So when you go for replica set, the rolling update concept will not be available. But when you go for the deployment, high level abstraction on top of the replica set. So it means whenever you create the deployment, internally it is using replica set only, but the extra benefit we are getting with the deployment is rolling updates we are doing. Rolling updates. Deployment support rolling updates where updates to the application are rolled out to the pods in a controlled manner, updating one pod at a time. As I told you, rolling update strategy is available. Instead of deleting all the pods and recreating them again, it is going to delete one old pod and will create one new pod. Then delete second old pod and create the new pod for the second one. Like this. One by one, it is going to delete. For example, my pods are already running in the cluster and I have done some code updates and I want to create the new deployment with the latest image. So my old Docker image is used to create the deployment. Last week I have deployed, and from the last week there are some code changes happened. Now I want to do the new deployment. So when I'm going to do the new deployment, so if I delete all the pods in a single shot, then application will have downtime. So I don't want any downtime for my application. So I want to deploy the pods with the rolling update. Rolling update manner means, so 3 old pods available. Instead of deleting all the 3 at a time, one by one, I'm going to delete. So that's why this rolling update is available in the deployment. So in the real time also, in order to deploy our applications, we are going to use the deployment resource. So here replica set available, deployment available, daemon set available, stateful set available. Out of these 4, when you are going for application deployment, we will use K8S as a deployment so that auto scaling, rolling update, rollbacks, facilities will be available. And this deployment internally use replica set only. Why it is using replica set? With the help of replica set, always it will maintain the given number of pod replicas. If you specify replica count as 5, always 5 pods will be available. Out of 5, if any one pod is deleted, self-healing capability will be there. It is going to recreate that pod. Another new pod will be created in place of the damage. Okay. Easy of use. Deployments are easier to manage for application requiring updates and scaling, as they automate much of the update process compared to managing replica sets directly. So any updates that you want to do, any scalings that you want to do, instead of replica set, going with the deployment is much easier for us. So that's the reason for application deployment process, we are going to use deployment resource, Kubernetes deployment resource. That deployment resource internally will use replica set in order to maintain given number of replicas. Okay, Kubernetes manifest YML for deployment. Kubernetes manifest YML to create deployment. Yeah. So whatever the manifest YML we are writing, we can get it from.
The rolling updates and the rollback features is one single feature, right, sir?
Yeah, right. For every YML, the command is same. kubectl apply -f YML file name. Whatever the YML file that we have, we are going to use that YML in order to execute that. That YML can be anything. It can be related to namespace, related to pod, related to service, related to replica, related to deployment. Whatever it is, we are going to execute that YML using same command. So can you check this? When I am asking the ChatGPT, it is saying Kubernetes manifest YML to create the deployment. Can you check these sections that are there? API version, kind, metadata, spec. In the spec, replicas. When I specify replica count as 3, replica set will be used internally and it will maintain always 3 replicas. And the selectors, match labels I have given, template, metadata we have configured, spec here. This template represents pod template. Pod template. What is the metadata? What are the labels for the pod? Pod specification. Pod specification, nothing but containers information will be available in the pod specification. Okay. I hope you guys are able to get this manifest YMLs from ChatGPT. You don't need to mug up this, but basic structure that you need to remember. API version, kind, metadata, spec will be available. In the specification, replica count will be available. Selectors will be available to identify the pod. Under the template, pod metadata, pod label, and pod specification will be available. Divide this into multiple parts here. API version, kind, metadata, spec. These are the 4 common labels, 4 common keys for every manifest YML. API version will be available, which represents which version of the resource that we are using, and what is the kind. Kind means what type of resource that you want to create in the Kubernetes. So we have pod, we have namespace, we have service, replica set, deployment, HPA, like that, multiple resource kinds available. Metadata contains name and a namespace. If you want to create it under a particular namespace, that namespace information also we will give under metadata. Then coming to the spec. Spec means specification. So if you are using any type of resource, so in the spec we will specify 3 things mainly. Replicas, selectors we are going to specify. Replicas will represent how many pods you want to create, and selector, which is used to identify the pods by using pod label. Match labels we are going to call. Then template. Template means it is your pod template. Inside the template, pod metadata, pod name, pod label, pod specification. In the pod specification, containers information will be available. Inside the containers, we will be having name of the container. You can give any name for the container. And the image. Which image you want to use to create your container, and what is the port number of your container. That means on which port number your container will execute. Container port is nothing but our application port. Container port means our application port. Next one, let's talk about Kubernetes namespace.
Sir, in real time also same set of configuration will be available, sir, or anything will be
No.
There will be any slight difference, sir.
Same configuration.
It seems like strategy was not mentioned in that. So,
sorry?
Strategy.
Yeah, the strategy is not mentioned. The default strategy is rolling update.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, look at the namespaces. Can you guys read this? What is a namespace in the Kubernetes? In Kubernetes, namespaces will provide a logically divided cluster resources between multiple users, teams, or applications. They offer a scope of names, key aspects, logical division, isolation will be available. Okay, like front-end pods, back-end pods, database pods, I want to separate. Let's have a simple example. In our house, we are not using one single room for the house. We are dividing house into multiple small rooms like hall, bedroom, kitchen, like this. We are going to divide the rooms logically for isolation. So in the Kubernetes also, when we are creating multiple pods, that means basically in one cluster, multiple types of applications will be deployed. Okay, it is not like for every application, one separate cluster will be available. So basically, if you talk about microservices, in one application, multiple microservices will be available. For every microservice, we don't maintain a separate cluster. In one cluster, we are going to deploy multiple microservices. How do you isolate your microservices related pods? That's where logical isolation we are going to do in the Kubernetes by using namespaces. So when you delete one namespace, all the resources belongs to that namespace gets deleted. Okay. Front-end pods belongs to one namespace. Back-end pods belongs to one namespace. Database pods belongs to one namespace, like that. Multiple namespaces we are going to create. Those namespaces we can used to logically separate the resources that we are creating in the Kubernetes. And is it mandatory to use a namespace in the Kubernetes when we are creating a resource, guys?
Not mandatory, sir. It will by default create in the default namespace.
Yes, when you don't create any namespace, right? If you don't specify any namespace when you are creating a resource, it will go with the default namespace. It will go with the default namespace. And how do you get the resources belongs to particular namespace? By specifying that namespace name, -n space namespace you want to do. How to create a namespace? So by using manifest YML, you can create, and directly also you can create. I have explained both approaches. kubectl, create ns name. Directly using create command, you can do that. Or you can use a manifest YML also in order to create a namespace. Mapping the resources in the namespaces. Okay. kubectl get resources with -n namespace. So kubectl get pods with -n namespace. I want to get all the pods belongs to particular namespace. So for every command, you can give -n namespace. And kubectl delete namespace so that you can delete particular namespace. So you can also set the default context of the namespace. That means every time I don't want to specify that namespace in the commands, get namespace, get pods with namespace, get services with namespace. In the terminal, you can set one default namespace with the context. Until you close the terminal, that particular namespace will be considered as a default namespace. You can set the context of the namespace so that for every command, you don't need to give that name. So it will take that as a context. So current namespace will take as a context namespace. So you don't need to give that name when you are getting the resources belongs to particular namespace. If you close the terminal, that will be ready. Yeah, good. And we discussed about HPA in the Kubernetes. What is the HPA in Kubernetes? Check this. What they are talking about HPA.
What about daemon and stateful sets?
Yeah, we will talk about that. So I have not explained about them. Without discussing in the class, if I show you will get confused. So these are the resources we already know. Just it is a recap. Guys, can you see how we are creating the HPA? In Kubernetes, HPA stands for horizontal pod autoscaler. It is a resource that automatically scales the number of pods in the deployment. Replica set, stateful set based on the observed CPU utilization or the custom metrics defined by the user. So scaling based on the metrics by using metrics API, we are getting that. HPA monitors the resources utilization of the pods of the target workload. Then target metrics, so resource metrics and custom metrics can be available. Scaling behavior, periodically adjust the number of replicas based on the observed metrics. So here, to create that pod autoscaler, we are specifying API version. So if you observe, API version is changing when we go for HPA. For deployment, it is apps/v1. For the service, it is only v1. For the HPA, it is autoscaling/v2 beta. So here we are giving the kind as horizontal pod autoscaler, metadata, specification, target reference name that we are giving, kind is a deployment, name of the deployment, MyApp that we have given, and the minimum replicas, maximum replicas that you want to create by using this autoscaler we can give. And resource name CPU I am giving, type is a resource type metrics I want to monitor, CPU metrics, target average utilization 50. If average utilization reaches to 50, then I want to scale up. Okay, minimum replicas, maximum replicas we are giving. Specify the target CPU utilization percentage, 50% in this example. using HPA, applying the configuration and get the HPA. You can see the HPA events also. kubectl get HPA -w if you use, it is going to give you the events. That means practically we can see when the what is the CPU utilization at this particular period, and when the pods count is increased, when the pods count is decreased. Practically we can see by using this kubectl get HPA command.
What is the W, sir? -W?
Events it is going to display.
Sorry, sir.
The last events.
Events, sir. Okay.
Yeah. That
So
means
in this,
for
in this
every
case, the deployment must be, there must be a deployment manifest before we can do the horizontal port autoscaler.
no, first you have to create the deployment, right? Based on the deployment only, you can apply the HPA. Directly, you can't do only HPA. For HPA, we need to specify the deployment. Here, if you see, kind deployment name that you have to give as a target reference. Without that, you can't go for this HPA. First, you have to deploy your application. Then you can use this HPA in order to manage that scaling of your pods based on the workload. Okay.
Sir, -W one somewhere is gave. Events is there, both are same, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes. Events means it will tell you what is the utilization, and when what is happening is the HPA. Basically, you can monitor by using -W option.
Repeat, sir. Please repeat.
You can monitor what is happening with the HPA by using that -W.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Monitoring. HPA events you can monitor by using -W. Otherwise, every time you need to execute kubectl get HPA to see the status of the HPA. If you use -W, without you execute the command, it will give you the events. It will give the status of the HPA for every 30 seconds. All right. What else we discussed in the Kubernetes so far, guys? I think we have covered all the things. So we understood what is orchestration. We understood Kubernetes introduction, Kubernetes advantages. The main advantages with the Kubernetes is self-healing, load balancing, and auto-scaling. These features are not available in the Docker Compose and the Docker Swarm. That's why the Docker Compose, Docker Swarm not used in the real time, especially for the production deployments. Docker Swarm, Docker Compose are not used. We are going to use Kubernetes for the production deployments, because when we compare Docker Swarm and Kubernetes, there are so many advantages with the Kubernetes. Right. Then the most important part in the Kubernetes, which is architecture. Okay. Without understanding that architecture diagram, we can't work with the Kubernetes. Like what is control plane, what is worker node, and what is kubectl, what is API server, scheduler, etcd, controller manager, kubelet, kubeproxy, pod, especially pod. In the Kubernetes, everything is a pod. Everything will be deployed as a pod in the Kubernetes. Pod is the smallest building block that we can create in the Kubernetes cluster. That pod is a short-lived object. At any point of time, pod can be deleted. Pods count can be increased, pods count can be decreased. Okay, so that's the reason we don't depend on pod IPs to access our application. After Kubernetes architecture got completed, we discussed about Kubernetes cluster setup. Can anyone tell me how many ways we can set up our Kubernetes cluster? Guys, how many ways we can set up Kubernetes cluster?
3 ways.
Yeah, so there are several ways available. One is Minikube. What is Minikube?
For practice purpose, sir.
One
Yes.
cluster only.
Single node cluster.
Single node cluster that is used only for practice purpose. So that is not used in the real time. Okay. And the next one, Kubedium. Kubedium means
Our own cluster, sir. Our own managed cluster.
We will have to manage everything.
Self-managed.
Self-managed cluster. That means you need to manage everything when you go for KubeADM. No support from the providers. So you need to take the machines, you need to install the softwares, you need to take care of everything when you go for KubeADM. So what is the best way to maintain the Kubernetes cluster in the real time?
Cloud managed setup, sir.
Yes. Provider managed clusters we are going to use in the real time. Like EKS cluster. AWS provided EKS for us. Azure will provide
Sir,
EKS.
In KubeADM, we have to create all the control plane nodes and whatever there in the control plane API server. We have to manage it. We have to create it.
We have to install everything through commands.
Oh,
Kubelet, KubeADM, kube proxy, everything you have to set up on your own.
is there any video present there in your channel how to do the KubeADM?
I think in the previous batches I have explained that, sir. I will find that video. I will share it.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Sir, at least any notes if you have, can you please share it, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Notes and interview question also, Ashok.
No, he's asking about KubeADM setup.
Oh, okay.
Notes I am giving in the class. Okay. Then after cluster setup, guys, so we discussed about pods. Pod is the smallest building block, right? So there are multiple ways to create the pods. So we created directly, but it's not recommended. We need to use Kubernetes resources. Then we discussed about services. Service basically use it to expose the pods. 3 types of services: cluster IP, node port, and load balancer is available. Cluster IP for internal access, node port for testing purpose on the particular worker node. For high availability for the production deployment, we are going for load balancers. And the next one, we discussed about namespaces in the Kubernetes. So they are used to logically isolate the resources that you are creating. Then we discussed about replica set, which is a Kubernetes resource to manage our pod lifecycle. The best thing with the replica set is always you will maintain given number of pod replicas for our application. For example, if I give replicas count as 3, always 3 pods will be available. If any one pod is deleted, it will recreate that. Then after this, we have seen deployment approach. This is the best way to deploy our application. This is deployment internally using replica set only. With the deployment, we have the advantage of that rolling updates and rollbacks. And the next one, we discussed about HPA, which is horizontal pod auto scaler. HPA is basically used for horizontal pod auto scaling. So my pods count should be increased or my pods count should be decreased based on the load. For that, we are using HPA. So to use this HPA, we used a metric server. Okay, we installed metric server in the Kubernetes cluster that is used to collect the metrics of our resources, basically. What are the pods we are running? What are the worker nodes we are running? Those pods and worker nodes resources I want to collect for monitoring purpose. To collect those resources, we need metric server. Even if you want to set up HPA, metric server is required. Without metric server, HPA cannot work because HPA requires metrics to take a decision. Whether it has to scale up the pods or it has to scale down the pods, that information, it will decide. It will take that information from the metric server. Based on the information only, it can perform the action. Okay, HPA we understand. That is horizontal pod auto scale. So these are the concepts that we covered so far in Kubernetes.
So, sorry, in this metric server, is there any charge?
For which one?
Metric server?
No, it is just a software that we install in a cluster. For cluster charges are there, right? Only for metric server, for HPA, no charge. Kubernetes is completely free. So whatever the resources we are using, the Kubernetes software is completely free. The charge is getting generated for EKS service that we are using in the AWS.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, hi Ashok.
Yeah, hi.
I just want to know like list what are the list of properties available for this manifest.yml. If you take any example like a Spring Boot, there is application dot properties. Right? What are the list of properties? It will be available in one document I listed in the chart. Likewise, is there any document for that?
I need to check it.
Manifest.yml.
I have no idea. I need to check it in the Kubernetes
Oh no,
official.
how? Yeah, okay.
I will check it and I will update it. If I find something, I will share it.
No, how did you find all these properties actually?
Sir, it depends on the resource name that we remember, sir. So when we are working with particular resource, and for this resource, we need these properties like that we remember.
Okay. And one more doubt, like actually I am working with microservices. Actually, I created two microservices. One is for like a Eroka server and one is like a normal REST controller. So what I did, like I deployed these two microservices in different container, okay, Docker container. But what is happening, like REST controller is trying to register with the Eureka server, but the connection is not establishing because these two are in different containers, right? Like it is like two different systems. Like how make it communicate with these two?
One
Do we need
microservice.
right?
Yeah, I got your question.
Sorry.
I got your question, sir. Two microservices running on two different containers. Now you want to communicate with them. If you want to communicate with them,
Yes.
then you need to create them under the same network, and by using that container name, you have to come.
Okay, so in a REST controller, I need to specify the
Container.
server URL as a container, right?
Yes, right. Not localhost. Service name you have to specify. In the Docker Compose, we discussed about. Listen. The Docker
Correct.
Compose.
Actually, I did. Yeah, I did the same thing, but still, I don't know how it is calling. Still, it is calling the localhost like a localhost 8721 port only. I don't know why it is still calling me, even though when I modified in the .yml file.
So I will look into that, sir. I will let you know that how to do it, because
Yeah,
when you are
okay.
running two containers, right? So these are two different machines. One container machine want to talk another container machine. Instead of localhost, you need to give the container name.
Yeah. And one more thing, like see, if you take one container, there is a possibility of 60,000 ports, and if you take second container, the same thing also it will be like same 65,000 ports will be available. Okay, so if you one container using like particular port, we shouldn't use the same port in the another container. Am I
It's
correct?
not like no, it's not like that, because every container is a different machine, right? Same port you can use for multiple containers. When you are mapping, when you are mapping them on the host machine, then you need to use the different port.
Okay.
Every container
got
is a separate machine. No?
Yeah, correct only. But suppose in container one I use like 8080, and the second container also I use 8080.
No problem.
Okay,
You can use it.
but okay.
When you are doing port mapping on the host machine, you need to map them to different port numbers.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Can you please share this Kubernetes setup? Actually, we are planning to do the setup in the local system.
Sure, sir. I will share that. You can't do on the local system, sir. You need to take the medium machines in the line.
Okay.
The AWS, you need to take the medium machines. Again, for that also charge will be there. 4 GB RAM machines are required minimum.
Oh, like in Linux system, we can't do the installation.
You need to take Linux machines in the AWS cloud. 3 machines you need to take with the 4 GB RAM.
Okay.
Kubernetes is a heavyweight software. You can't set up on the 2 GB T2. Basically, T2 micro free, which is 1 GB. On the 1 GB machine, you can't run the Kubernetes. Configuration is not sufficient.
Okay.
So, sir.
Yeah.
So in practical, when we are doing a kind of exam or interview, practically they will not allow us to use ChatGPT. Now,
No.
I know they will allow us to use to Google and see to Google through Google to get resources. So now, how do we go about Googling through internet to get all these resources in terms of deployment, metric server, and HPA?
So when you are doing your work, you will have access to Google, ChatGPT, and all the tools you can use in your work. Only for the interview, you can't use them. That's it. Okay, when you are doing the work in the project, right, you have the access for all these tools.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. So good guys, so with this, we have revised all the resources. I mean, all the things that we have learned in the Kubernetes so far. So tomorrow, I'm going to explain on blue-green deployment concept, the Kubernetes, which is one of the most important topic which is used in the industry to make our applications live by following blue-green deployment. Anybody hear that? Blue-green deployment in your companies? When the project is going live, people will follow blue-green deployment approach to make it live. Anybody hear that term? Blue-green deployment?
No, sir.
Yes, I heard that.
Can you write it down? It's blue-green or blue-green?
Blue-green.
Colors.
Blue-green.
Blue-green. Colors. Blue, color green. That is the terminology that people will use in the industry to make our applications live with zero downtime. Can you guys do some research on blue-green deployment before coming to tomorrow's session? Tomorrow, we are going to learn the blue-green deployment practical.
Okay, sir.
So,
Yeah,
with
so
this Kubernetes concepts completed or?
No, not completed.
Okay.
We need another 1 week.
Ashok sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what we have searched in ChatGPT, why we cannot search it in Google?
You can search in the Google also, sir, but in the Google, there will not be any fixed answer. In the Google, multiple pages will come. You need to find what is the right answer in the Google. But ChatGPT will give you direct answer.
Okay, sir. It will give a accurate result. ChatGPT means.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, fine, guys. So before coming to tomorrow's session, I want you people to do some research on.
Hello, sir.
My company is giving GitHub Copilot training. So which is better, sir? This ChatGPT or Copilot?
Anything, sir. Both you can learn. Both are used to make your work simple, right?
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
You can take that back. Yeah, Anand,
yeah. Sir, in real time, like in terms of security, like what security, your image security, what we do in the real environments. So that is my question.
Yes, sir. We will discuss on that. So still the topics are not completed, right? So once all the topics are completed,
we'll see you tomorrow, sir.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys. So I want people to
Ashok, one thing. Hello.
I want people to come up with some analysis on this part, which is blue-green deployment. Don't come with blank mind.
Sir, how many days it will take for Kubernetes next class?
Another 1 week of time. I need to explain daemon set, stateful set, config maps, secrets, values, Helm charts. Another 1 week of time for Kubernetes.
Sir, we can waive off the AWS bill twice, right, sir? Sir.
Twice, yes.
Yeah, sir. After that, if you want to practice Kubernetes and use the CKS service,
create another account in the AWS.
Okay. Oh, we can use the same credit card, right? Or debit card option and create new.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when actually this program going to end?
I mean, complete.
I put the same question on the chat box, WhatsApp. Like, if it is like really little, $1, $2, if I can pay it now, and then if it goes like $50, $100, we'll pay. We'll waive that bill later.
Yes, sir. Month end we can. Yeah, month end we can submit. Don't submit it now. At the month end we can submit that request. I already explained in the class how to submit that request, right? At the month end, you can do it.
Sir, in real time, as a DevOps engineer, in a real time, you can use a ChatGPT, sir.
You can use it, man. Nowadays, everyone is using, not only DevOps engineer.
Not, sir. I am not asking that, sir. In a company, when we use it or not, I am asking, sir. When
We
we
can
got
use
a
it.
job in DevOps engineer.
We can use it, sir.
Okay, sir.
Can use it.
As a doubt, I am asked, sir. Nothing about it.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, one
fine,
question,
guys.
sir. Sir, one thing, sir. How long it will take to complete this course by like coming month or August?
Sir, after Kubernetes, then Jenkins will be there for 1 week after. Kubernetes 1 week, Jenkins 1 week.
Okay, by the month of July, it will be completed.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Sir, can you provide the interview notes also?
Sure, sir.
Questions. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Sir, communication class, can you update, sir?
Sure.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.